Thank you. Can you stand for the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, gotta
You were on it. I got up. I said, whoa.
gotta be moving. Not too bad for an old guy.
No, not at all. Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Swager?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Benton?
Here.
Mrs. Boer?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here.
Thank you. Reading of the notice, please.
The Johnstown-Monroe Board of Education will hold a special board meeting at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024, which replaces the regular board meeting scheduled for 5 p.m. on Monday, August 12th. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. Upon request of the superintendent, the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with a disability to be able to participate in this activity. A recording shall be made of each meeting of the board as administrative aid and shall be preserved as public documents of the board.
Thank you, Dr. Wagner. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Thank you. And I gave the board a quick sheet of this. This time of the year, a lot of moving pieces, especially with staffing. So everything I'm going to tell you is within the consent agenda. What it is under, well, this first one is not in consent, sorry. We're going to have to reschedule the finance committee meeting so that I believe we have that canceled on the agenda. So you'll see that. We'll talk about that possibly the next week. I've had some individual conversations before. Now the consent. Under consent agenda, under B, under resignations, Andrea Rayburn has been added to a position. Under C, we have employee transfers, Mindy Jacks and Jennifer Stoltz. Or quite often, I can talk about that more when we get there. Classified, we have Andrea Rayburn adding, Kathy Hillier added there. We also have under additional resolutions, we have a then and now certificate, and Felicia and I can talk about that. And then we had a couple volunteers to make sure. So typically we don't walk so many items in, but this is all under consent. It's the time of the year, like I said, with a lot of changes, but nothing really significant, nothing really earth-shaking.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll motion. A second.
And any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
I think I motioned first.
Yep.
Oh,
Most
sorry.
welcome.
That's okay.
Okay. Swamped. Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mr. Swager?
Yes.
Mrs. Boer?
Yes.
Any public remarks? Thank you. Moving on to presentations.
Okay. We have a paper copy here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I wanted to go through, I know we had a nice convocation yesterday, and I'll talk more about that later today, but just wanted to do a year review, and I'll go through these items quickly. I just wanted to highlight things that were accomplished in the 23-24 school year by many people, and then also talk about what we're getting ready for the coming school year. So Mr. Busenberger, can you change to the next? There we go. So under the administration and staffing, we had some changes this past school year. So obviously Derek's in a new role from the former high school principal, and we wouldn't let Mrs. Seibel retire, so she's done a great job in her new position, part-time there. We had some new principals or deans of students, and we had some onboarding last year that we recognized. We'll have a little bit more of that this year, but we'll do that in a year. So obviously Mrs. Drummy came to see us in October. We launched a couple math coaching positions, and those continue into this school year. And then we also had the master agreement with Johnstown Education Center, Association. Again, I'm going through these real quick because I know the board has seen lots. From a communication standpoint, Mr. McDonald obviously leads this area and has done a tremendous job. So we I forget, but we launched a new website this past school year. We did a lot with branding, and we did an adoption there. A lot of gains made in social media, LinkedIn, Threads. So obviously a lot of improvements there, better connectivity to a lot of cross-platform and trying to enhance our base there. Many positive television newspaper highlights that we had throughout this. Construction, we obviously demolished the board office last year, and then a lot of this, we're doing some work now, but it really sets up this current school year, is the addition that's coming forward to the high school, which again should be completed by August of 25. We're looking at a multi-purpose facility, new board office, possible performing arts center reconfiguration or expansion there, and that's all part of our work with the architect. From a curriculum standpoint, we implemented last year our brand new math curriculum, so that's exciting. This year we have an adoption of grades 4 through 8, 2 areas of science curriculum that we've adopted, and we're implementing that. English language arts kind of surprised us, as you know. We're doing K through 5 adoption, wit and wisdom. Didn't expect that, but that's more reflective of the changes at the state. And the district also has seen many gains in our report card, and possibly by the next board meeting we'll have an update that I'm cautiously optimistic about, but I don't control all of the factoring from the state. But if you remember last year, they did a 2-year average, so the 1 year looked really good. And at that at a base, Mrs. Seibel and I have been looking at data, and it's seen some of the raw data, and it's starting to come together. I think we'll be pleased, but I don't want to say that until I see how the state calculates everything in the final form. From a policy standpoint, been busy there. Actually, we counted 95 board policies have been reviewed, renewed, rescinded, or replaced, and that was as of June. And then also we've done some work with residency, and I don't want to preempt Mr. Busenberg's next presentation, but that falls under the policy section. So he'll be talking more about that. Public-private partnerships has been an area that we've spent quite a bit of time on, and it's, I would say, fruitful. Compensation agreement with the city of Johnstown. We were talking about this with some city officials yesterday again, and they have now our mutual understanding in hand, so that when a business comes to locate in Johnstown, they know where the schools are, and that'll help the process, and we have consistency. Obviously, we received the donation last August. It was $300,000 from Meta, and we have their STEAM labs, and I talked a little bit about that in convocation. Intel was $250,000 in December of 23, and that we've targeted that for our engineering and then robotics. As we continue public-private partnerships, we talked about this yesterday a bit at convocation, but then CTEC, strong partnership there. We launched the multi-skilled technician as part of a satellite for CTEC, and then the electrical trades program, so we're very excited about that. And then even time goes by quickly, but we were remembering that we hosted that workforce forum, and Lieutenant Governor Houston came there for the ribbon cutting for some of our exciting announcements. Near area transportation, significant improvements this year. Still early, but the first day's gone very well. Really tremendous efforts by Mr. Busenberg. He's worked closely with our provider there, community bus service, but really has made that a focus, has bi-weekly meetings, but we put some standards forward and implemented that. So far so good. And you always expect some challenges with transportation. It's typical to see it for 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. Changes, students we think are there, not there, but by and large, very well done so far, and we're going to keep positive thoughts for that, but that's a lot that's planned. And really the last area that just highlighting again too is our Purple Star School. Mrs. Wagner did a lot with that. Mr. McDonald helped with that as well too. And then our goal this year, our objective is to try and get all the other 3 buildings in alignment too. But it really shows the strong commitment to our military families and the support. So happy to answer any questions. I know I'm going through this quickly, but and again, I know we covered some of this in convocation with the board and the staff. You want me to highlight or answer or questions from anyone?
I mean, obviously, we've appreciate, especially on the curriculum side, all the work we're doing there. Look forward to that continuing, and the fact that I didn't receive a single phone call about buses or transportation today is an excellent sign of how the school year started.
Right.
So I do appreciate that, Mr. Busenberg, because I know you played a heavy part in that.
Mhm.
Usually, no matter how well planned you are, the first day always has challenges. We're always going to have a couple of buses that are late or getting, that's just the reality of, starting a new school year with new students and new locations. But by all accounts, so far this year, the first day went exceptionally well. So I'm encouraged by that.
And thanks for all the board committees, because, this is a team, like I said yesterday. So, board committee structure is working, a lot of involvement from the board, setting direction, and then we implement. So thank you to all of you. But again, happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, that's the very quick review of the 23-24 school year.
All right. Thank you.
Next, we'll move to Mr. Busenberg. And in the area of residency, I thought the board might want to see an update about what we accomplished last year and some aspects of what we're focusing on for this current year.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Dr. Wagner. I just wanted to update you a little bit on our residency. The first slide you'll see is residency consideration. These are some of the things that we think about when we're determining the residency of a student. Some of the big things that come up, who the student resides with and their relationship to the student. So there are some rules about that. Students can't just live with whoever they want to. And a lot of times we get into custodial situations where one parent is the residential parent, but the student wants to reside with the other. So Debbie Lowe does a lot of work in this area, checking custody paperwork to make sure that that is done correctly. Very basic question is, do they actually reside in the district? And are they residing where they say they're residing? And then just checking the validity of all the enrollment paperwork. So those are some of the things we do when we look at the residency and when students enroll in the district. Some common residency issues. The first is a pretty big one, students enrolling using a fraudulent address. Probably the number one issue we experience with this is where students are legitimately enrolled in the school district, and then they move out, but they continue to use that previous address or maybe the address of a family member or someone else because they like the school, they want to be in the school, they don't want to change. So they start out legitimate and then end up not being so. And the other one is students living with someone other than the custodial parent. So they actually do live in the district. They're just not residing with, by law, who they need to be for district residency purposes. An overview of our process. The district employed a residency, truancy, and attendance officer in October of 2023. So that was last school year. And our attendance and truancy and residency officer, he follows up on complaints and suspicious enrollment documents. So if Debbie gets something, it's just not looking right, maybe it looks, suspicious, he can follow up on those. But also we get complaints from people. They'll call in and they'll say, so-and-so says they're living here, but we know they're living, outside of the school district. And he follows up on those. And when a determination is made that a student does not meet the residency requirements, then we as a district contact those families. Last year, summary of our investigations, our officer investigated 14 different students, 7 families in total. 4 of those students ended up exiting the district. It means they were not living here and they enrolled in the district where they were living. 5 actually moved into the district and they met our increased enrollment verification requirements. So if we find out that your paperwork doesn't match up and then you subsequently rent or lease an apartment in the district, we have some extra requirements there to make sure that it's all legitimate. We verified that 1 student was properly enrolled and residing in the district, and 2 investigations are still ongoing. They started towards the end of last school year, and we really try to make sure that we're very thorough and accurate in our investigation. So 2 of those will continue into this school year. Our ongoing efforts, last year we launched an anonymous residency reporting tip line. Anyone can call any of the Johnstown school buildings, including the district office, and select option 7. And there's a recording there that tells them some helpful information, and then our residency officer will follow up on those. So that is an anonymous line, so that gets routed through our TEC partner. We do not see any who calls, so that helps people make those reports. And for more information about that, you can visit the website. Craig has a really nice page about information and all things about residency. So I know it's a really quick overview, but I just want to keep that high level. Does anyone have any questions about our residency efforts?
Can someone tell the public why we're going to such a quick residency? Can you tell them back?
Sure. So when we have students properly enrolled in the school district, we report that information to the State Department of Education, and then we receive school funding for that, or receive a portion of what we should in school funding. For every student who's not properly enrolled in the district, we receive no funding for that. As we grow as a school district, this is an area we want to look at, or what we are looking at prospectively, to make sure that everything is as it should be from a residency standpoint. And yet as we grow, we have 4 students. Well, actually, there's 9. I think there was 4 plus 5 moved into the district, so there's 9. It's not a perfect linear math problem, but about 23, 25 students makes a teacher. So, it makes a classroom, so they can add up. And I just think it's what we should be doing for our taxpayers to ensure everyone can be here. You either buy or you rent, and you're within the school district. We want to ensure that is proper, and I think that's part of our responsibility to the community as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I echo that. I mean, we've continually moved the open enrollment year by year up. That way no one was currently a student, and then getting relocated out of the district. So each year we've moved that number up through 10th grade now. And we'll continue to move that up as the board so desires. And I think it's the prudent thing to do because, as you know, we're adding 6 classrooms onto the high school now. So I think it's imperative that the local taxpayer receive and get the education that they're paying for the students that live in the district. So I appreciate the hard work on that.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to board committees.
As I said, finance is scheduled for tomorrow, but we'll reschedule that. We wouldn't talk about that anyways. Policy will also reschedule with finance. The only committee we've really held in summer months and vacation schedules was the strategic planning, economic development, construction projects. And Mrs. Boer was there. And we met with the building team members. Do you want to say anything? Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So we're looking at all 4 projects that we have on. We talked about this convocation as well too, but we obviously have the 6 classroom edition we're looking at. We also have we're looking at the port office, multi-purpose space, as well as performing arts center. One of the things that came up in our conversation, and it could be maybe a 5th part of the project, is looking at baseball and softball and trying to decide if there's some work we should be doing there as well too. I know we put some time, effort, and money into that, but we're going to consider that possibly a 5th. Everything is moving forward as we would expect with the project. Tonight we have a contract for the architect in our board resolutions, and that's all within expectations. The high school edition is still expected to open August 25, so we will have that ready for the next school year. There was a question about the board office and whether that could be open a little later into the fall. We engaged in a discussion about that, and it's the concept of economies of scale. And what we learned from the construction team is that the board office and the high school addition are more closely related than the other projects. So would there be some economies in doing both at the same time? The architect called me, Byron Manchester called me yesterday and talked about the way the contract is written now that the board office opens with the high school edition. And I said, we'll keep that as it is. And if there's something that changes, we can talk about, but I don't want to change from that schedule right now. I don't think the board does either, especially if it can cost a little bit more money to do that.
I think the planning on the classroom conditions is pretty straightforward. I'm not sure about the board office, so that needs a little more discussion before we actually go that far.
That's a good point, because if in the contract, it's around the middle of this month that they're supposed to have schematic design. And when I talked with Mr. Manchester yesterday, he called me, as I said, I said to him, what's concerning you? And he said, well, we were not going to meet schematic design right out of the chute. And I said, we're okay with that, and we may be able to collapse the timelines later on, but that is going to be the first item, is how we build. You know, we've talked about 1-story, 2-story. Do we, you know, we want to front the building. We've talked about, so there's some work. We're going to have a work session in 2 weeks, or less than 2 weeks now, and that'll be a primary topic. We'll want to get prepped for that. So, anything else? I mean, a lot of it culminates in the contract today, I think, and working with the construction manager as well too. They were there from Robertson's. Anything else? Big picture, I think.
That's good. I just
Okay.
relay that in case we're in sync. We don't know.
Yeah, and we'll get you ready for the work session, but there'll be some discussion about board office and some different ideas. One thing I will tell you that has come up since the committee meeting is, and it goes to your point about the 6 classroom addition is really going to be an extension of the existing building, and what we have designed is that when someone looks at the building, when it's done, they should be able to tell the addition. Even the banding that is there vertically will break up any kind of difference we should see in brick from any difference you may see because of age and different dialect. But the one thing that did come up, and we should talk about next week, is they can extend those classrooms a little bigger than what is currently. And I'll get specs to you, but it was only about $140,000. It's a lot of money, but $140,000 more to make those classrooms bigger. So that'll be something we want to talk about too. So the lab spaces could increase over 100 square feet. Yeah, over that. Yeah, I'll send you a design. So it might be worth it because, you know, when we're in there, it's not that much money on that size of project. So, but other than that, everything. Questions about committee meeting? I know you got tired of at work, so you were, but we'll catch it for next week. That's think about LPDC if there's ready for that. So there are 2 LPDC meetings since our last board meeting. There was one on July 12th. Those in attendance for LPDC: Stephanie Stuckey, Laura Kurtz, Renee Britton, Annette Price, Ben Jagger, and Derek Gusenberg. They met for one teacher who had an expiring license. They were able to resolve that, and the teacher's plan was approved and their license was approved. So that was the sole purpose of that meeting. And then the LPDC met on August 8th, and similar people here: Stephanie Stuckey, Laura Kurtz, Renee Britton, Annette Price, Michael Shipton, and Derek Gusenberg. When they met on the 8th, they approved 4 plans. They did not have any to return to any of the staff members. They did have some exit reports that they had to process, so that would be for people leaving the district, and it's that concept of reciprocity that continues. So, for example, Max Snyderman, who is the former dean of students, we get the team did an exit report, but there were 10 of those, including retirees. Their next meeting is going to be Tuesday, September 17th, and they also, as part of their committee, created a document form for contact hours that will make it more standardized, and that was shared among the districts. That's helpful. And they distributed links for anything new with the local professional development committee for the 24-25 school year. And lastly, the group elected a chairperson and a secretary, and that chairperson was Stephanie Stuckey, and then Renee Britton as secretary. Those are the notes from the 2 LPDC meetings.
Thank you very much. Any questions on this? Moving on to the consent agenda.
Resolution 24-08-165 is approval of consent agenda.
I can get a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
I'm going to walk through this, and we typically do give explanation, but also highlight the changes. So under the B resignations, what you'll see on changes, we added Andrea Rayburn and she's resigning to accept another position. So she's added to the existing list. Under employee transfers, we added some names there too. So the added names: Mindy Jackson, and she is changing to the high school building secretary. She was the athletic secretary. Jennifer Stoltz, as the middle school library paraprofessional, was the middle school instructional paraprofessional, or was a middle school instructional paraprofessional. Lori Wyckoff, as the guidance secretary, was the building secretary. A lot of times we don't have to put transfers in front of the board, but whenever there's a change in hours or hourly rate, we bring those forward to the board. So that is it for employee transfers. Under certified employment note changes, it's as listed there. We have 3 people. Classified employment, we have a couple of people to add there too. Andrea Rayburn as a high school attendant, and Kathy Hilliard as a student attendant for Johnstown Intermediate School. No changes as listed for district tutors. As a reminder to the board, there's a big list of tutors here, and this is as needed, so this gives us some blanket, but it doesn't mean everyone's working these hours or working right away, and we'll monitor this through payroll. Next, under G, we have supplemental employment. You can see all the supplemental positions we have there, some of which are new from the contract changes. So, for example, 8th grade Washington, D.C. coordinator is new on there, as did grade camp coordinator is. Under H, we have salary changes, and that degree changes, and that's when someone earns a higher level degree or has additional hours. So, example, master's or master's 15, master's 30. Mrs. Lowe does a great job verifying that, and I help her with that. That's that section. Board minutes, rather straightforward. We just have the one board meeting from July 10th. J, I do want to call attention to because we talked a lot about this at our last board meeting, but this is suspension of student fees. So what we're asking here is to revise the previous resolution, which was 2405-094, and it's the approval of the student handbooks, and contained where therein is to reflect the suspension of some student fees for the 24-25 school year. So we wanted to formalize that. We have a monthly finance report that hasn't changed from what was originally published. And then we also have some volunteers we added, so that was under L. And then we have 2 volunteers that are on your sheet here. And then lastly, I'm sorry, it goes on order. Actually, L was a then and now certificate. So that was for legal counsel. And then, the next one, M, was for volunteers. Anything I can answer, Mrs. Drummy, about the consent agenda?
Any questions on any of that for anyone? It's a lot. If you need a minute, let me know. We're good. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Mr. Benton.
Yes.
Moving on to the treasurer.
There is one recommendation on the treasurer's agenda, and that would be the approval of a donation from Alan and Kathleen Benton for the Charles and Patricia Kessler Foundation Scholarship in the amount of $1,000.
I suppose we shouldn't ask him to motion for that.
I'll motion.
Did I
Second.
vote on that or abstain?
I would abstain. I mean, not that it's, but just to be, yes.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second.
And
Okay.
seconded. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Benton,
Abstain.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mr. Swager.
Yes. Thank you, Kathy. Oh, and Alan.
Well, Chuck Kessler, for those that do not know him, he was a part of our school district for many, many years. He was a teacher, he was a coach, he was a principal, he was a superintendent, right? And Patty was a teacher here at the school years ago. So he and his entire family were really dedicated to this school district and to this community. So we really lost a strong person in our community.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Alan. We'll move on to superintendent.
Sure. Resolution 24-08-167 is the Learning Spectrum Contract for Services.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
And a second.
Second.
Really straightforward. We don't talk a lot about special needs, but this is a specialized contract for a school.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Benton,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Mrs. Boer.
Yes.
Resolution 24-08-01, I'm sorry, -16868. It's the employment of residency officer.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Second.
Discussion.
I just want to tell you real quick. Last year we started with 10 days and we added another 5, so we ran out of the chute with 15 days. We'll use them as we need them. We also didn't increase the rate. It's the same as it was last year, and we heard a presentation tonight about some of the outcomes.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Boer?
Yes.
Mr. Swager?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Resolution 24-08-169 is a contract correction.
I can get a motion.
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
This is kind of my fault because it's at the July meeting we had moved between a administrative position and classified, and it's the way we pay our school psychologists. It's something I have to look at the future, but this kind of level sets everyone for this school year or impact. In this case, it's a part-time school psychologist, but it'll be something we'll look at in the future and whether they should be moved over to certified.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Mrs. Boer?
Yes.
Mr. Swager?
Yes.
Resolution 24-08-170, it's Greater Johnstown Parks and Recreation District Board of Trustee resignation.
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Can
I'll
I get a second?
I'll second.
The reason why I'm bringing this board to the board as a resignation is because the term wasn't quite finished. The term was supposed to expire middle of this month, so it's a few weeks early. Otherwise, it would just, and at some point we'll have to talk about reappointing another person to that position. But at least we wanted to get the resignation because it's a little before the end of the term in front of the board.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Swager?
Yes.
Mrs. Boer?
Yes.
Mr. Benton?
Yes.
Resolution 24-08-171 is approval of pricing proposal of architect.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
We need to talk about it.
We need to
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, we got a motion and a second, so discussion.
Sure. Anything you want me to answer, or you want me to just?
Well, Tim, I did call you.
Yeah, I talked to them. Everything's included for the design of everything, for the school, the board office, the multi-purpose, and the PAC is included in that. Nothing above that or beyond that. It's for those that are scoped of the project, so that price is all inclusive of those.
The only thing we did that isn't in there is if we did something with baseball or softball, and that'll be a secondary that the board would have to approve.
Are you thinking that the baseball and softball field would be that in-depth to do that we would have to put within this project? I mean, I guess we were talking about doing the field work and then tiling. Is that what we're talking about? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what we're talking about out there.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll need some direction from the board, but we don't have enough information right now. I didn't want to take the architect off there or the construction off there with those four core. But one of the discussions that occurred is we recapture some dirt from the excavation, and there'll be a little bit there. I don't think it'll be a significant amount, but there will be some recapturing. And then dirt is pretty easy to get in this area. So do we fill that area, and then do we also tile it then the right way? I don't know how many feet we would do it, but I think it would take an engineer to look at that area and see if we can level that out. The other thing we talked about is could we put some type of functional restrooms and sink and all in there. The preliminary look is that we've got the pumping station there just outside the high school. We can tap into that, we believe, but there's no work done on that. So before we would advance any of that, the board would need to get some direction.
So is that going to come out of the buildings and grounds and go to the strategic planning?
I thought we would start with that next at the work sessions at a high level, and then we could take it to committee from there.
I guess the big thing for me is I don't want to delay doing the baseball and softball. I know that was like a phase 3 that we had listed on there, but the way the summer's gone, it seems like it's gone just in a blink of an eye, and we'll be back at baseball season again.
Yep. Well, it's
So
a good
I don't want to
point.
let it go.
You want to let go?
No, I don't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't
One
want
of
to
the
lose sight. I
Correct.
shouldn't say let go. I don't want to lose sight of this.
Correct.
It's something on our plate. We don't want to lose sight of it.
one of the things that we did talk about at the meeting in July is what if we did level that and rebuild it? Like, will we be able to put it back in service and how quickly? So again, this is just high level. We haven't done any significant work with this, but what we talked about was they would start the program or start the demo and backfill and compacting as soon as the season's over, and then possibly sod in some places to advance, and potentially, that there would be a schedule. It could be ready by the next spring.
By this spring or the following spring?
That it would be less than a year is what they're telling us, is that it could, if we did it, we were jumping, but maybe you heard it, but it was, if we'd have tight time at the end of the season. This was always just preliminary discussion at our committee meeting. So
The scope of the project, we really don't know
No.
what that scope is going to look like, is what we
Yeah.
talked about earlier. That field has always been a problem. It's in a hole, so how do we elevate that? How do we tile it?
Yeah.
What complications are there? How will it look? Where do we extend the foundation, et cetera? So I was comfortable with the discussion with that. We just don't have that information yet.
Yeah.
Grounds for this, if we go back to any committee, but it's happening.
I don't, yeah, go ahead. Whatever committee it needs to
Yeah.
be to where we need to put it, but I don't want to lose sight. I think we need to do something down there for sure.
Well, what really spawned this discussion in our last meeting about this was additional parking, because if you think about where the dugout is right now, we were talking about on the first base side, we were talking about trying to fix that curb because water runs down, and then we talked about, I think it was another 20 parking spaces, I suppose. Yeah, and then we said, okay, that's going to be more water shedding off that area. It's obviously going to be a hard surface. So we started talking about it, and again, don't lock in this. I don't know if we need 4 feet, 8 feet of dirt. I mean, the idea would be to get rid of that bowl design properly, really properly drain that area, and let's be proud of it, like we are of the stadium. I don't think we'll lose any time. It's just such a big aspect that I think we need the board. So we're teeing up we're getting ready for the next work session. It'll be less than 2 weeks from now.
I don't think we can put any more band-aids on it. I
No.
remember about the urgency. We put it off for a lot of years as committee years, but we really need to take a full look at the project.
Yeah.
What's appropriate?
Yeah.
Playing baseball and bowls, not
Yeah.
playing. So,
Well, and again, this is all just preliminary, high level, because we talked about this at the committee meeting. If the board, if we could plan this, support it, we could start as early as after the end of the season in 25, and should be able to be ready to get ready in 26.
Gotcha.
I thought that was that exciting. Like, wow. I had a reaction. I'm like, remember, this is all preliminary, but this is just a committee meeting
You
discussion.
didn't think you could get
Yeah.
it done in a season.
Yeah. But that was the idea, was it could be as early as at the end of this season in 25. We go from there.
not to digress a minute, back to the resolution that we're discussing here. In reading that contract, I don't know why we aren't including, for example, the board president or the school board entity in that contract, so that there's a natural conversation with respect to the board. I noticed that was not in this contract. I think it's been in previous contracts, either that or we just did it because we did it, I don't know, but I'd like to see that back in there, that space, that it's a triumvirate who approves the projects, because obviously Tim represents the board and you all represent other, actually you represent the board too, but I think it's good to have a bit more of this expanded signature authority.
We can add that before.
And I,
it's
just to clarify, so you guys, I did have a brief conversation with Dr. Wagner today about that. Because we have that $50,000 cap, also anything that would go above 50,000 total expenditure. We're not going to nickel and dime that, you know what I mean, play that. So totality, anything that goes above 50,000 beyond will come back to the full board for a vote as well. Just so you're aware.
That's what you and I talked
Yeah,
about
there's a
earlier.
spending authority. I've dealt with other building projects, and sometimes there's an expanded authority, but there's a reason for that. I don't feel like there's a need for that in this process. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. We can, if the board approves this tonight, we can get that contract, we can get that line added for Mr. Swagger's signature before it's finalized.
And then once this is, should we agree to sign this tonight? Should the board agree to this? then we'll see the designs for the other. Like that. I mean, eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's a design build stage.
because we've seen
Yeah.
one design.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to clarify.
Yeah, it's there's nothing that's advanced that far. It's just I think summer schedules and all too, and we'll get back into our regular cadence of meetings. But we can work sessions. We can have an update from now, you know,
Well,
through the
and to be
months
fair, I
ahead.
think, BHSM is, they're waiting for this contract to spend too much time on this
Yeah.
project until they get assurances that they're getting
Yeah.
paid. So
Right.
they're kind of waiting
Mhm.
to start design on the other stuff.
And this is kind of different than what we did on the other project, so that's why I kind of asked.
Yeah,
this
you know what's the
question.
significant
Not
difference
trying
is
to
yeah.
question everything, but it's different than how we did the other ones. So
Well, and
just
what's
that's-
different about it is there's no OSCC behind this as well too. So we're leading this as ourselves. When you have a, well, I've done it both ways, but when
Yeah.
you know an OFCC has, they'll also, and they're obviously your partners with you, and they take greater responsibility. This is our responsibility here, so it is going to feel different. You have we have an attorney who's gone through the process, experiencing this. But,
Okay.
yeah. Now we'll continue to give updates for Friday report. And anytime you want to update, if you're not seeing something, you know, we can do committees. We're good about that. Like I said, we're well functioning, so everything is very open here.
All right, any other questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Benton,
Yes.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution 24-08-172 is Four Seasons Environmental Energy Management and Technical Maintenance Services Agreement Renewal.
Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Did we have Four Seasons update this because they actually have the wrong contact person on the document?
They did update the dates and all too, but what are you seeing in the?
Well, on the what came to us was the former superintendent.
It's addressed to
Mr.
a former
Dixon.
superintendent.
Oh, yeah, I get that periodically. I go by
I mean,
whatever.
like, I mean, if they're sending a
Yeah,
contract
no,
to
I
us,
do. No, I think it's just, yeah.
It's not your one side.
I want that deep voice from you when you approve this.
I'll grow mustache anyway.
Right.
No, we can have them update that.
I'll just be- On this contract here, I don't understand it quite. It seems on this energy management and technical maintenance, I know we pay them. And this one we had it's percentage, and
Bonded.
we had talked originally about trying to split somebody with Northridge, and it never came to fruition. And it seems to me that we continue to have off and on issues with the programming of this. So
Yeah.
I do struggle sometimes with how do I judge the effectiveness of this company on these contracts? That's where I got to rely on you and obviously Dave Jenny to tell us whether or not they're being effective for the dollars we spend, because I don't know how to judge this contract.
Well, I remember when the Buildings and Grounds meeting was, that there have been some discussions about, or two committee board members about
Okay.
looking at some of these contracts, efficacy, future, and we've had some larger discussions. So
Okay.
the Northridge predates me, though, doesn't
It did.
Yeah,
This
okay.
was when we were
Okay.
building the schools
Yeah, yeah.
originally,
Okay,
because we
Yeah,
had
yeah.
to bring someone on
Okay.
board. We were
Got
looking
it.
at this. That's how we ended up here.
got it,
Yeah, we
But
were
this did
required
come
to
up-
have this as part of the building
got it.
process.
Oh, yeah, because there's a maintenance requirement.
Yeah, this is the maintenance
Oh,
requirement
There's
as
part of your
the-
OFCC requirement
Correct.
there too.
Correct.
But we talked about it. We can address this at building. There's a couple areas in Buildings and Grounds we wanted to talk to, and
Okay.
Mr. Boosenberg and I'll work on that with Mr. Jenny. Get ready.
You might make that phone call again, because people have changed and attitudes have changed. Maybe that may be a good sale, that we do cooperate, because we don't use the Four Seasons every day, all day. Northridge doesn't either, so perhaps that might be a good way to split a contract.
And I don't know if they were under contract with them at the time as
Oh, okay.
well. So
Yeah, we'll look into that.
those were one of the questions, if there was any cost savings there through shared access.
I appreciate the historical perspective that Board provides us with some of the longer term history, because I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
But we'll look into that.
That's all I have on.
on the cloud hosting, is that the same price that it was previously? Or can you tell Mrs. Drummond? know, I apologize. I probably should have asked that. We have been in the committee meetings when Dave Jenkin's been able to pull up, and we can see clearly all the buildings. You can see what's cooling, what rooms are cooler than other rooms, what rooms are hotter than other rooms, depending on which, if we have the heat on, or we have air conditioning on, or vice versa. So we have been able to see that, and they have used it to identify where they needed to go look at trouble areas. So it does eliminate a lot of troubleshooting in that respect.
Yeah, the back end analytics are impressive when you see it, but
Very. I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
definitely see
Yeah.
the hot spots.
Yeah.
Using the JMS as an example, you can see the hot spots around the cafeteria area.
Mr. Jennings is very intimate with this data, so, but we, as we said, we'll review this at committee.
Same price as last year.
Well,
Same.
since we have questions about it, do we want to approve it tonight? If we have concerns about the pricing or sharing?
I think
Do we want
I'm
to table it?
comfortable with extending it, but I'd really refer to. the
I'm
grounds
comfortable with.
maintenance.
I'm comfortable with.
Because you're the building ground.
Yeah,
Are you
I
okay
saw
with
the. I saw the. That it's a valuable tool that Dave can use,
Okay.
and the Four Seasons person when they come in. It's
it? So you're okay?
the
with
cloud hosting is basically $329 a month.
it? Okay.
So
Yeah, just the question, so we have questions.
Mine more is just to continue to examine it year to year and
Yeah.
make sure it
Yeah.
doesn't escalate. And next thing you know, we're paying a company more and more and getting less and less.
right, that's why I wanted to know if this was more than the previous one. So
I appreciate it. Any other questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
yes,
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Mr. Benton.
Yes.
Resolution 24-08-173, Four Seasons Environmental Maintenance Track Agreement Renewal. This is the software that accompanies that. Yeah.
If I can get a motion, please.
a motion.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Same comment. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes,
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mr. Benton,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Board comments.
I too would want to take a minute tonight to pay tribute to Chuck Boer. Yeah, it's on my mind. Chuck Kessler. I served many years with Chuck Kessler and feel very emotional about this. So I'm going to let Ann read the tribute I've written because I don't think I can do it. I know the family well and I knew him well. I know the wonderful things he did for our district and I'll read it.
you don't want to try to. A tribute to Charles F. Kessler. Since learning of the death of my friend and colleague, Charles F. Kessler, I have struggled with finding the words to describe the loss to our community, our school system, and my friend. I knew him best as a pillar of our educational community. Serving as a Johnstown-Monroe School District Board member, I had the pleasure of working with Chuck to review current and future curriculum opportunities for the district, updating policies and guidelines, evaluating discipline procedures, and assisting and motivating the participation of community residents in school programs. His journey in education was nothing short of inspirational. Beginning his career as a teacher, he understood firsthand the challenges of motivating a student both inside and outside of the classroom. As a coach, he instilled the values of teamwork and perseverance. Rising through the ranks to become a principal and ultimately superintendent, he never lost sight of what mattered most, the students. What set him apart was his unwavering commitment to student success in every aspect, educational, personal, and moral disciplines. He was known for his firm but fair approach to discipline, always balancing authority with compassion. As a counselor and mentor, he provided guidance and support, shaping not just minds but character. Chuck's devotion to his community extended far beyond the office hours. His constant presence at school activities, from sporting events to academic competitions, he encouraged all students to do their best. His leadership style was inclusive and collaborative. He recognized the importance of involving the Board of Education in key decisions, fostering a sense of shared responsibility and community togetherness. Living in our community with his spouse, Patty, who was also a dedicated teacher, we all knew Chuck was completely invested in the well-being of our district. Chuck's final years were challenged by health issues, but when he was able to attend school activities, his reassuring smile was present. Our school and community has lost a remarkable and dedicated leader. We are very grateful to the Kessler family for establishing the Charles and Patty Kessler Scholarship Foundation, which will inspire many Johnstown graduates entering the field of education. We honor his service and will miss our friend, Ruth Ann Boer, Johnstown-Monroe Board of Education member, community resident, and friend.
Very nice. Thank you, Ruth Ann. I'm not even going to attempt to follow that up. I think everyone knows how important Chuck was to this community and this school, so I appreciate those words. All right. You get to follow it up.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well, I've met him a few times as well too. And we had that nice tribute at Senior Awards. And boy, I'm so
Very
glad,
nice.
so glad we got that. He had the standing ovation. We were able to capture that and share that with the family. And we've worked closely with the family to establish the scholarship. So it's been tremendous for me having a shorter time, but just to get to know someone is, and what the impact they made to the community. So, and to
I
continue.
also think when they honored the class of 1970 on the field, I recall that he was out there with them, and that was a very special time as well. We enjoyed that very much, and was able to walk across the field with the team. So those are special moments, especially too.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to try to keep going. Follow. A couple updates for my section is wanted to highlight Faith Life Church in New Albany. They contacted us, and Dave Jennings deserves a lot of credit because he coordinated all this. But I want to tell you what the church members did last month. They had more than 30 church members come in. They volunteered on Saturday, July 13th, as part of they have an annual service day. They assisted with replacing mulch on playgrounds, picking up rocks on a new athletic field, increased the safety. They did some painting of fences and handrails at Frank Chambers Stadium. Dave Jenny also worked closely with the volunteers to facilitate any efforts they had in need. So that was really well done. And the church was quite insistent on doing this, and we certainly appreciate that. A letter's been sent to them already. Thank them. But I thought it was worth publicly sharing that with the board. Yesterday we had convocation. Thank you all again for being there. As I shared yesterday, I know it's a lot of time commitment, but it's our only day that we get together, and I've heard so many positives and so many good things about the board being there and being our professional family. So thank you. We're all proud of our school district and more to come. Right? Today, first day of school, exceptional. And, I started the day at the elementary, and I've been doing this for a few years. You'd think we were weeks into the school year. I mean, people are prepared. It just principals, nice job, calm. Transportation we talked about already. The kindergarten staggered, so we had about a third of students today, third tomorrow, third Friday. And then parents, especially in the elementary grades, won't be driving as much. It's always fun the first couple of days of school. So Monday we'll really test the transportation, but we're also, working through a few challenges we had today, but just really by all accounts, talked to all the principals. Things going really well. So
Excellent.
yes, ma'am.
I asked the principals to speak a minute and tell us how they distributed the special items we had for the students.
You mean the supplies? Yeah. So we can.
Well, that's a challenge, and I was curious how we were going to accomplish that.
Well, let me just tell you too, in the delay in the orders too. I have a picture that yesterday at the high school. You guys can all speak, so jump up if you want to. But the orders came in at different times, and they were on pouch duty. They tried to get me going on that at the high school, and literally we're opening the pouches and putting pencils and pens in. But they had assembly line set up with staff. Michael, jump up if you want to. Jump up to the mic so people can hear you. But I don't want to steal your thunder. But I was over there yesterday and trying to be recruited.
Yeah, we had assembly line today. First of all, it was a great day at the high school. It was wonderful to see, for me to see the first time being new to the district, the senior clap-in. That was special. And from the gymnasium then, we called them by classes, started with the freshmen. We had our assembly line out in the commons area, the cafeteria. We distributed, I want to say, 6,000 individual back-to-school items And there were some big items. I mean, there's some loose leaf paper bundles and individually wrapped and things that we gave each student. And like Dr. Wagner said, we have some 3-ring binders on back order. We'll have them Monday, and pocket folders as well are coming in Monday. So we'll get those to everyone. We don't want any student to leave the high school today without getting their supplies. So we made 6,000 items to 450 students in under 30 minutes today. So it's quite an
Wow.
accomplishment. So
Excellent. Thank you.
yeah, good day. Thank you.
Nick, you want to tell us about your experience?
Yeah, from the middle school, great day as well. I can't take any of the credit. All credit goes to Mrs. Hayes. She did a fantastic job. All of our orders came in. She actually had everything in this room on tables for the first day for the teacher work day. When they came on Monday, all the teachers came. They grabbed all their stuff. They actually had them on first day of school. They had it, or this morning, they had it all laid out on the desks for students. So when they came in, they had their binder, they had their agenda book, they had all the things that were individual to them already there for them. Some of the supplies didn't go straight to the students, and the teachers had them organized, but all of that, it was very, very seamless this morning. So it was a great day.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Werman would give us an update about the intermediate.
Well, my first day here at Johnstown was with the kiddos today. It was really a great day. I went to every classroom, talked to each of them, kind of just introduced myself, did fun things. In terms of supplies, it was great. I went back a couple times throughout the day, and it was like Christmas morning. Teachers were passing it out. The kids had their cinch sacks. They had all their bags. They were getting all their stuff. They're really excited. So a great day. Busing again was really good. So I'm just excited to be here, and we had a great day at the intermediate school today.
Mrs. Wagner?
The veteran.
That's the veteran team, don't forget, too. They're my veteran administrative team.
Everything went wonderful at the elementary today. I can't thank our staff enough for all of their dedication. We, a week ago, received 4 pallets of 6,000 books through Wit and Wisdom. So that all got sorted, put in containers by module and so forth, by our staff stamped it, did all that. And then on Monday, we suddenly got a call that we were getting 20 boxes of school supplies because we hadn't gotten any yet, so we were a little nervous. And so quickly turned it around. The staff was great. They came down, they got what they needed for their class, wheeled it back, and we were set to go by the time of open house Monday night. And we have a few things on back order also, but at the elementary it's a little different because we share supplies, so we're good to go. And I just can't thank you enough. I think it's just really cool that all the students have supplies now, and all of them have the same types of supplies. And I just think that that feeling of pride in their materials, I met with each grade level in a small assembly today, and we talked about taking pride in our building, taking pride in our materials. And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I would like to get feedback eventually from the teachers to see if they feel like the students received the items that they needed.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Make sure
Yeah.
we don't have a gap in the
Yeah.
system at all, that they got the type and quality of material that they wanted. And
What we'll do
obviously,
is we'll
if
give
not,
it-
let's fix it next year.
We'll do an update at next month's board meeting. How's that?
Okay.
Because that'll give us a little bit of time. I don't make fun of it. You know, the clown car analogy, like people, you should have seen the boxes. And sometimes when we bulk order, they all come to the board office. It was, I thought, is this guy ever going to stop? The boxes were, and then we're shifting in and Dave Jenny's guys. It was just, it's like I said yesterday at convocation, like people don't realize that if you can save 2 or 3 cents per unit and what that exponentially does. The other thing, and it was touched on already, is just consistency in product, right? Sometimes name brands have a certain quality and off brands don't. It depends on what you're shopping, but everything's the same, everything's consistent, I think, and no one has to be concerned, because I've heard that before about parents maybe having to buy the off brand, and so everything's consistent and we don't have to chase anyone, and it's really been, but we will get a better, let us get a little bit into the school year. We'll even update it. We'll do a presentation at the September board meeting.
That'd be good. I
Yeah.
do have a question at I guess middle school and high school. Did you have to build packages specific to each student? Not that the elementary, they're all in the same class, but at the high school, you're taking different courses. So you had specific, like each child had to get their, Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was curious. Thank you.
It's a good point because that happens, curricular wise. Like we build a base for technology, but you always
Right.
have to add as you get up
Yep.
or modify a little bit as you get.
Well, and as
into
we
the
do
grades.
this, if we're able to continue to do this for the
Yeah.
students, then we'll get better at having
Yeah.
the distribution and
Well-
the items that we know.
Yeah.
Right. Excellent. I appreciate it.
And while we're giving shout outs to our staff, I would be remiss if I didn't offer some acknowledgement. Holly Orr in the treasurer's office was really instrumental assisting all the secretaries with their back to school orders, even, sitting side by side, helping them. So she's a tremendous asset
Yes.
for us.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I think that's a good point because sometimes we just think it magically happens, right? Those boxes, those walls of boxes show up and there's a back end.
They
work to that.
beside your desk.
Yeah.
They were
They surrounded your desk.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. It was the hallway was board up, so it was incredible.
We just recognized Holly Tuesday for her years of service.
Yes.
Yeah,
we did.
20 years.
Anything else with the first day of school? We'll continue to give updates, but by all accounts, well done.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
acknowledge Craig and the video he put together for the
Convocation.
convocation. That was
Yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah. Did you see I sent it out to everyone too?
Yes.
Yeah, I sent you a link on that. So we thought that was well done. But yeah,
And his video on, we're waiting for the students to come back. The one you did on that one, it was a little sad, almost like it was so quiet.
we were talking about that today. Like,
But it was a good video. I like that.
there's a lot of work behind the scenes. People don't see it in those videos. Take a lot of time to put together. The cut and
I
paste
know, I
and reviewing
appreciate
them.
seeing the videos.
Yeah.
Since I can't be to everything, it kind of connects me. I'm sure it does to the community as well.
Mhm.
View those and it connects them to see
Yep.
what's going on during the day.
I was the administrators.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else with the first day of school?
Nothing else for me.
PTO, I've given you an update. Really proud of our PTO. I mean, they're doing a nice job. We approached them about expanding beyond their immediate school. I could barely get out of my mouth, and they were interested in. I sent you a publication. They of what they're publishing on their website, and
It's
tremendous.
very impressive.
Yeah, tremendous. And
Very
I
exciting.
think it's, I talked to them about what's one of the school districts doing a community PTO, and like I said, they collaborate on that. And just a very professional group. They were actually asking for a lot of support, so we were going to look at their financials. It's something we have in policy anyways, to look at all of our sport organization financials. And that's something we've updated policy, but they've come first forward with it, and it's a great group to work with, and I'm just so proud of what we're going to be able to do with the partnership there. Fall sports, and a little bit of update, because I figured that's great to give you a little update. But just gonna read from it. So for fall sports, we officially begin on Friday. Friday football featuring and girls. I think I get some what that word. Oh,
Girls
soccer. Thank you.
Football.
Oh, I'm like, what is this word? I'm like, okay, that was a mistype. And then boys, so it's girls at 5:30 and boys at 7:15. Okay. And then 8th grade hosting the tri-match, right, on Saturday. Okay. And girls' first volleyball game is on August 22nd. And our first football game, it's hard to believe we're here, is an away game at Zanesville on the 23rd of August, right? Okay. So we're getting started.
I appreciate the weekly schedule coming out on the social media. That is very helpful to me because I'm constantly looking at different schedules, trying to figure out what events. So one snapshot of what's going on in the district was very nice to see. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate working with Greg. It's been the shoot running there, working with the high school administration, so he's done a nice job.
Are we thinking about having a fan bus for the students for the Zanesville game?
I don't know, a fan bus that we. Yeah.
I don't know if it meets the distance, but I do know
Yeah.
that stretch of 71 down to Zanesville has a lot of construction. and a lot of traffic during that time on Friday night. Might be something that you should think about to keep everybody safe. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't have that ticket.
Okay, we'll look into that.
And I think the other one, isn't there another distance game? Is there another game? Maybe I looked at it wrong.
We'll look at schedules. I'll look at all this and we'll get an update to the board. Okay.
I'll have to look at it.
Anything else with fall sports?
Just excited to see
Yeah.
the schedule,
Yeah.
see the kids out there on the field.
Yeah.
And the band, we have the band play at Convocation. They look like they're ready to go.
Well, and they are. I think that's exciting. And also Dave Jenny and these guys have been working on the middle school field there too. They put some turf in. They've been watering that. That looks a lot healthier. I think we got the water reel. So they're using that a couple of days. Guys were out yesterday, so we're going to make sure that natural grass area is taken care of too. So, want to remind the board we're working with the city of Johnstown about a CRA request. There's a difference between the pre-1994 and the post-1994. So keep the board updated about that, but it is a 100% request for abatement for 10 years, and I think we really need to spend some time on that topic. So as current as yesterday, I had talked with a couple of city officials and still looking at it. Right now, it's not scheduled to go for council, and we just need to understand all aspects of that, and also the precedent it sets for the future. I know there's some legislation for this, and again, this one is before 1994, but I think we just need to look at everything and it's the full picture to understand the impact it has to the school district and city. Something interesting, enrollment. So I give you an update in the weekly report. All the props to Mrs. Loker, she keeps this up. So our enrollment increase now, I will tell you this includes kindergarten, it doesn't include the graduating, the 12th graders, but in terms of new students we enrolled this year, as of Friday, 170 students. Okay, but that's kindergarten. It's 123 kindergarten.
And we graduated 130. What did we graduate?
Can we
138?
subtract kindergarten?
138.
Let's subtract kindergarten.
Yeah, no, it wasn't 138. It was less than this year. Yeah. So we're just watching. Now, the next number gets even greater. So she did an analysis today before the board meeting, so that 170 now is 202. There's another 32 students. Now, here's the only thing I would tell you.
Since Friday.
Withdraw. Yeah, that's since Friday. So we know 32 students. We don't have withdrawals yet. Sometimes those lag, so we'll watch that. So, as I stood up there yesterday, that we're still about even with our enrollment past years. We may be starting to change, but I'll keep you updated. Just as I'm looking at things, I won't worry about details. The increases are fairly proportional through the grade levels. Like the difference between Friday and today, we went up 3 more kindergarten students. First grade, two more students. So the only grade level that really jumped that was significant. We went from 6 fifth grade students to 11 new fifth grade students. And again, we haven't processed withdrawals yet, so we'll see. But it's going to be an area we'll watch.
That was already a large class.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That was already one of our larger
that's
classes.
That's 5th and 6th grade. We've kind of watching that group anyway. So, but again, let's see what happens with withdrawals.
Did our enrollment numbers for the CTEC programs for the multimedia craft and the electrician to deco, did that increase at all? Or still the same?
I actually have to look at that. I haven't looked at that in a
Did
couple.
they start yet? Since CTEC
Yeah.
doesn't start till.
Well, no, they're there today, and I want to give a secondary comment about that. But for the month for electrical trades, it's 11, and I think we have one Northridge student as well too. So I think we have 12. Right?
Mhm.
So we have 12 students right now, and then. Okay. So the other schools are still coming in late. Northridge, for example, doesn't even start school, I think, until the 20th, something like that. Yeah. So, because we're working with them on the agri-science and BOAG as well too. So they're helping us about that, which I'll talk about. So I don't have an immediate update on that, but it's some of that's in flux. One of the things, like I was talking with Deb Merrill from high school, I think we had 125 schedule change requests, so some of that factors into it. And that's not, it sounds like a lot, some are easy, but some aren't, so these are moving pieces, and you expect this from a high school as well too, your first week or two. But anyways, back to enrollment, we'll watch that and see what happens. Well, I'm kind of talking about enrollment in high school. The VOAG program, we had the 21 students who were potentially interested for this year, and I think we made some updates. Then we had a freshman who was interested, so that brought it to 22. We've offered all of the students, we looked at their schedules, and they go out for VOAG. Northridge had originally committed to a morning and an afternoon. Then their numbers were potentially low for the afternoon. Again, they haven't started yet. They were not going to do an afternoon. Now I think we're potentially doing an afternoon again. Yeah, and there's no online though that's been asked because Mrs. Seibel worked on that in the summer, in June, July, and they don't believe they can deliver the standards remotely on that program. So, okay, and then so I believe that what we have is in the morning for VOAG, it is 5 students right there, and then 2 for the afternoon right now. So we have 7 out of the 22 possible. Yeah. Okay. So, and just as a reminder for the board, because I know we've been studying this and we've talked about it a little bit, we're obviously not hosting the program this year, but we have met with some of the commercial farmers. I've had a good discussion with them. And I've told them on behalf of the Board of Education, we're willing to restart a program. We just want to see, is there an interest and what would that program look like? When I met with some area residents, like I said, the commercial farmers, they explained to them that the program currently could take up to 154 students, and we've been down to about 22. But also that there are 6 domains from the state level, and that if we're going to expand a program, we would look at that. And as an assurance, I guess, we also talked about, we're not afraid to build programs. Look what we're doing with electrical trades and multi-skilled, but we'll see if there's an interest. So, but right now we do appreciate the partnership with Northridge, and we're reciprocating a little bit because we have at least one of their students now in the CTEC program that we're hosting. Is there anything else? So again, I'll keep you updated about enrollment. I think that's it. There's no questions. We're getting a lot of moving pieces. Oh my God. Okay.
Absolutely.
Who wants to do the introductions right here? Sorry. I don't know. Yeah.
So with us, we have Ashley Grice, who will be our new athletics secretary. I'll only introduce her.
I remember you. Actually, I walked you around the intermediate school that day. She asked me about the building, and she had seen the addition. It was actually quite excited about it. So we walked around. She was able to see the old versus new. So.
And then at the intermediate school, we have a student attendant, Kathy Hillier. She's here with us and her family, so we're excited. Actually, her student attends the intermediate school, so it's really a cool thing. We talked today, didn't we? Yeah, and so we're excited for her to get started too.
Great. Well, let's go.
Sorry, we recognize you at the back. Yes. Usually we try to get that at the front, so but at least you got to see the whole board meeting. So,
Yeah. You don't normally have to do this.
Yeah.
I know.
But thank you for being here, seriously, and welcome. Actually, do you live in the community?
Ashley.
Yeah.
Your daughter follows you. Did they say your daughter goes to school here as well? Excellent. Great to hear. We always like to have local, or bring your kids with you. Either way.
Bring your kids to school.
And I think that's all of our updates. Like I said, unless you have questions.
I have none. Does anyone else? At this time, we have a need to go into executive session.
Yes, I'll read that resolution. 24-08-174 is the executive session, and that's for purpose of consideration of appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. Mr. Slugger, do not anticipate asking for any vote after the executive session.
Okay. Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Benton,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Boer,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas. Yes.
Going into executive at 6:22 p.m. with no action expected afterwards.